Hey, this is Brooke and I'm here to talk to you about The Curse of Mekori, which is a book that I'm releasing very soon. I'm so excited about it. It's been 10 long years writing this book. Let me tell you a little bit about it. So my book features Brianna DeLacy, who is a neurodiverse ADHD main character. She goes to England for a special education program and stumbles on a 400-year-old witch rumor. And it delves into the Lancaster witch trials, which is a historical event that happened in Burnley, Pendle, Lancaster, Salisbury, England. And if you're interested in history, if you're interested in cozy mysteries, if you're interested in paranormal romance or contemporary fantasy, this will be up your alley, especially if you like clean romance. It's just a very sweet, fun book, and I just fell in love with Brianna over the many different revisions of this book. I think Brianna is what came out of the latest revision as a much more solid character than she started out as. And I'm going to talk about the whole writing process because it was a big writing process. So when I came up with the original idea that I had, usually when a writer starts a book, they have this image in their head, and then the book that they create kind of revolves around that image. And the image that I had was of these witches sitting around a fire, coming up with a curse to mess with people. And I was like, this is a great idea. And the more I thought about it, the more I delved into the idea, the more I turned it over in my head, the more complicated the story became. I did all of this research. I read all of these books on the Pendle witch trials, including like the actual historical documents that were published at the time. I read so many things. I made a notebook about it. I read so many things that like I forgot half of what I read after I read it. But I made all of these notes. I wrote this whole complicated story, but I wasn't a good enough writer to develop the story yet. And I didn't realize that, but I just kept trying. I just kept going. I kept rewriting the story. Everyone that read it were like, oh, this is an adult book. I wrote it with Brianna being in college. It was a clean book, but I wrote her at like a new adult age, and I didn't realize that new adult has a certain expectation attached to it. I also wrote it at Cambridge University, and everyone was like, you know what, your voice just sounds really YA, the character sounds really YA, the book sounds really YA. You should move it to a boarding school. I resisted that for a long time. And finally I went back and I moved to a Burnley school. I moved from Cambridge to Burnley boarding school. And I made up my own school that was in Burnley, and it ended up being a good idea, but it was a huge revision to change the setting. That was big. I actually had a beta reader from England that I'm so grateful that I found, who picked up some of the inconsistencies of things that I had missed when I moved it to Burnley boarding school from Cambridge. So after that revision, then I did a revision around the character arc, because I kept hearing from people that the plot was really good, but the main character was really dry. So I wrote in a character arc, wrote in a theme, did a lot of research around that. But then I still kept getting like, the character is better, but she still doesn't feel very real to me. She doesn't pop off the page. And so I did another revision and another revision, another revision, and I just could never get it there. So I dropped it one last time, moved on. I wrote Empire of Glass and Stone. And with Empire of Glass and Stone, I really focused on the character arc, and that was great. But I read a book on dialogue, and in dialogue, it talked a lot about, comparing, juxtaposing characters in the dialogue and creating specific character traits that make the character distinctive and, contrasted to the other characters. And I tried that with Brianna, and she came alive. And not only did she come alive, I poured a lot of my own ADHD quirks into her, because I'd been talking with my coworkers at the time about ADHD and some of the things that I'd struggled with, because they were starting to question, like, do I have ADHD? Do I need to look into treatment and medication? So I talked to them about some of the things that I struggled with. I was diagnosed when I was a really young kid because I was struggling in school, and I had a lot of experience that I could speak to. And so that was something that was on my mind, and I wrote it into Brianna, and Brianna kind of became me. I guess I wrote myself into Brianna. So she feels very much like me. And that ended up working out, and she came alive, and she came alive to me, and I just really grew to love her. And I don't feel like I'd loved the other characters in the book before I loved Brianna, and that was the wrong way to write it. I needed to love her the most, and I'm so excited about Brianna. I'm so excited for you to meet her, and you're gonna have to comment when you've read the book and tell me what you think. I'm so excited to hear from you. I'm so excited to hear what you think of this book, and I really hope that it is everything that I want it to be, everything that I expect it to be, everything that I hoped for, you know, over these many revisions. So thanks so much for watching and for being here for me through this journey. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being such an important supporter for my work.